Well, welcome everyone. We'd like to thank you for joining us on this drop in and learn session. This is, I think, about the fourth one that we've done so far, and we are doing this now on a weekly basis every Thursday at 10 a.m. I'll introduce my guest in just one moment. Just before we get started, though, however, we do want to remind you to go to dropinandlearn.org, which is where you can find out about upcoming sessions as well. And if you are watching this on YouTube because you weren't able to get into the meeting room, we do apologize. This was an overwhelmingly popular session that we're doing today. We did end up overbooking. So again, our apologies for that. But hopefully you are here watching it right now on the YouTube channel, which is also Drop In and Learn as well. Now, today I'd like to introduce Kirby Plessas. Kirby is a former military intelligence analyst who is the founder and CEO of the Plessas Experts Network, and also has an interesting nonprofit as well. So welcome Kirby to the program. From sunny Arizona. And first of all, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your background working in military intelligence prior to coming into the OSINT world in the civilian world.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I started off as a signals intelligence analyst and Arabic linguist in the US Army. And then when I left the Army, the first job I got was OSINT up at DoD. So I kind of stayed with military intelligence for a while. Eventually, I was recruited away from the DoD and helped, open an innovation center for another agency and launched my own company in 2008. So,
Right. So,
yeah.
so it's been a while now. What changes have you seen have you noticed since 2008? Because in the world of the internet, I mean, that's almost a millennia. 12
Right.
years is quite some time. So what are the big changes that
Right.
you've noticed over that point in time?
Yeah, so 12 years is as long as my company's been in existence, but I've been doing OSINT since 2003. And probably before that, if you consider some of my Army time, because one of the things that I would do is I would do a roundup of things that were going on so that my linguists would understand what, in context, what they're hearing. So the changes that I've seen, and this, I think it just kind of goes in waves, are the different tools and software. So of course, social media explosion, that happened right as I started focusing 100% on OSINT, which is 2003 is when really things started getting into gear for social media. I feel like I'm very lucky that happened at that time because I just grew right with it, right?
Mhm.
I've seen, different tools close down information access and then other ways to get that access. I've seen that kind of thing. So for example, when the Facebook graph search changed completely last year, that's nothing new. I knew that the information's still there. There's still going to be some way to get to it. So you just kind of have to adjust. Um, I guess that's kind of the thing that I see as like the waves of opening of data and closing of data.
You bring up Facebook graph search and the massive changes that we saw last year. And I know myself, looking at many of our client organizations, there were many that ground to a screeching halt because they were so focused on these sort of bullet point lists, these very linear ways of doing things. And I think you've touched on a really important point there. I guess to go back to the old saying, give a person a fish they're going to eat for a day, teach a person to fish that they're going to eat for a lifetime. The thought process that goes into this is, would you say, more important than actually memorizing any given set of procedures in place at any given point in time in order to find information online?
Absolutely. So the information's there, and the information's there. If the access to the information is closed, then you have to work out in your way how to get back to that information. And you don't have to do it alone. There's a community. There's a ton of people out there. I wasn't the one who figured out, how to do the Base64 translation to get the new Facebook stuff. But I knew who was going to come up with that information. So I kind of jumped in and helped where I could and watched it develop and kind of helped other people understand. And that's basically what I do now, is help people understand how that part works to get to the information that we need for our cases.
Speaking of understanding, one of the things that intrigues me about your background is that as a linguist and understanding language, the subtlety of language as well. And Arabic is actually quite difficult because there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of dialects. Just because you speak Arabic doesn't necessarily mean, say, you're coming from Levant or the Khalij region, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to communicate with someone from North Africa, for example. Tell me a little bit about the subtleties of language and how that plays into things like threat assessment, for example. And I guess what I'm getting at here is the importance of the human element as opposed to a machine that is trying to take large amounts of data and try to make sense of it all.
Right. So as far as being a linguist, I think that it gave me a lot of understanding of not just the languages themselves, but different cultures and how they use language. And there's no way that you can know all the languages. So that's one thing just to check off your list. You're never going to be the person who translates everything, but you need to know how to deal with languages, not necessarily be the translator yourself. For example, right now, if you started speaking Arabic to me, it would take a little bit. I know that when I'm in a country that speaks mostly Arabic, it takes me 3 days to a week before I can even function really without using English. So I'm not going to be the person who's going to do the translations right now, but I know that there are subtleties in each language. And I know that sometimes you can actually search on that in some cases and figure out, which dialect that they're on, where in a certain country they're from, just based on little bits of tells from the language.
Right. Simply throwing keywords into a search engine is not good enough to identify potential threat vectors, is what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. You need that analysis part too. Mm-hmm.
Right, perfect. Now, what we're here to talk about today is Facebook. Speaking of Facebook and how things have changed so dramatically, and in particular, Facebook image searching. And for all of you in attendance right now, as you watch this live, if you do have questions at any point in time, if you go to the chat feature and just ask the question to everyone, I'll field the questions off to Kirby. And she's been good enough to suggest that anyone has any questions at any time, we'll just throw them in there as we work our way through this, and Kirby will be happy to answer those for you. Now, with regards to Facebook, I mean, we often say its image is worth 1,000 words. And dealing with Facebook, I mean, there are about 2.5 billion people that are using Facebook on a monthly basis, at least as they go in. Most people have 150 friends, somewhere in that range. And going back to this idea of a picture being 1,000 words, there are some 350 million images posted on a daily basis. That's 4,000 images every single second. So it's a huge treasure trove potentially of intelligence, but also it could be completely befuddling in order to find things. So maybe you can take us through, Kirby, the importance and the sort of some of the key features when it comes to Facebook image searching.
Sure. Can I show my screen right now?
Absolutely, please do.
All
And I
right.
like the Dr. Strangelove background, by the way. That's a really nice touch.
Thank you. Okay, so going to my desktop. Oh, you know what? My MacBook didn't like that. So hang on, I've got to go and allow it, apparently.
Okay. You may be looking at a bit of a restart.
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
I hope
good.
not.
Well, as we always say, the more important the audience, the more technical foul ups we end up having. So I guess this is a really important audience that we've got here today.
Right, and I think that maybe this is the computer I do most of my presentations on. However, I don't think that I do them on Zoom is the thing. So
Okay.
Let's see now. I see what you're saying, but you might need to restart. I might just need to rejoin, but we'll see if it'll let me or not.
Sure, yeah, you bet.
Well, it seems like it's going to let me actually.
Oh, there we go. We're on.
Yeah.
Hey, how about that?
Okay, so we'll just, it seems like it wants to open that again, but we don't need to. All right, so you can see my screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Can do.
Mark Zuckerberg photo search that I just did. Okay, so one of the things that I want to point out with Facebook, since the change, it used to be that you would just tweak the URL and you'd do, all of your searches, and you'd pretty much get pretty much everything that was there, right? As long as you wanted to go that far. Now, the search is considerably different. When you do a search, even if you tweak the URL, which we'll do in a moment, even if you do that, the search isn't necessarily everything that's there. It seems like pockets of data, I guess you'd say, based on the filters. So right now, more important than anything is the filters and what section you're on in the toolbar on the top. So if you're looking for photos, make sure you're on the photo section. And then those filters are critical right now. So we're gonna choose a source right now. So my search term right now is Mark Zuckerberg. Up until just weeks ago, you used to be able to actually put in an asterisk in here and not have to have a term, but now that is cut off. So we do have to, have a keyword. So again, we'll put in here Mark Zuckerberg. But then now if we choose our source, this is the part that's critical. So right now, if I hit see all, yes, it's still going to look for Mark Zuckerberg. If you'll notice, the URL at the top changed, and you can play with it a little bit with the keywords here, because it almost looks like the old style Facebook graph URL, right? But it won't go too deep into the content. So now if we wanted to go in and choose a source, for example, and choose Mark Zuckerberg himself, we can grab him and we can get the photos that he posted about with the keywords Mark Zuckerberg. So again, these ones should be all coming from him. And as we hover, we can see that they are. But these, of both those two groups that we've had, the overlap is actually fairly small if you go deep into it. Now, we can switch our source again instead and choose a family member. So we'll say Randy Zuckerberg, which is his sister. And again, we get another group of photos that's not necessarily in the overlap of everything else either. And we're still in that kind of see all section. Now, if maybe I'm looking for not only when the full name Mark Zuckerberg is posted here in a picture by Randy, right? Maybe I just want the keyword Mark. If I change this here in the search bar, it actually gets rid of your filters.
So just to be really clear then, when you type in Randy Zuckerberg, what we're now doing is we're looking at pictures that are tagged with Mark that Randy has posted. Is that the way I'm understanding that?
Sort of. Okay, so there's a little bit of difference with that too. They could be tagged with Mark, but our search now is no longer looking for specific tags. It's not looking for that his name is in the, I mean, it could be in the text, but also it could be that he replied to it.
Right.
So if somebody replies to that, whatever's the search term, that's the term anywhere in the content, comments, etc. It's looking for that anywhere. And right now that she had posted, and that's the only conditions. Right. Again, if I decided, okay, I don't want to, maybe I'm not carrying that the whole name is in there. I just want to look for Mark. If I change that in the search bar, it just cleared out all of my filters. And so now you've got to either rebuild your filters or adjust it by just using the search bar or using the URL. So go up into the URL and then change it up here, and this will keep your filters the same. So now we're looking for just, well, theoretically, no, we're not. It just changed all our filters again. All right, so I'm going to do it a different way. And here's the difference between what I'm doing right now and what I just did. When I do for Mark Zuckerberg and I go to photos here, and before I hit see all, I'm actually going to choose my source and put in here Randy Zuckerberg. Right, and I want the one, of course, that has the check mark. Now I can adjust my keywords from the URL at the top. So maybe I don't need the full name Mark Zuckerberg in this case. And let's see, I need to move this zoom bar out of my way. All right, so I'm going to adjust it up here, get rid of the word Zuckerberg, just have the word Mark, and that should keep my filter as Randy. We're only searching for the keyword Mark now, and then we've got again, and it'll say photos from friends and groups, and you'll get this public photos. I don't really know what the difference is. There's clearly a little bit of difference. Mm-hmm. When I hit see all though, sometimes this gets rid of our filters again. So again, now we have Mark as the keyword. There's no filters at all. All right, so the search is a little bit weird. I would suggest stay away from the see all button and just start choosing, your source and your keywords as such. So if I'm looking for any picture of Mark Zuckerberg, again, I'm going to switch into him as a keyword and maybe say by Mark Zuckerberg. Then this should be the ones that he himself posted. The fact that my keyword is the same as my filter means that I'm looking for all the stuff that he's posted. It doesn't have to be of him, all right? Because it's going to find those words because it's in the post. He posted it, right? These are not going to be self-tagged, not going to be selfies. They're just going to be a bunch of pictures of him.
Right.
Let me show you another example of this. I'm going to use my own name. When you look at the photos that are out there publicly of me, and this one's probably a little bit easier to see what I'm trying to say because there's not a lot that show up when you just search for me. However, if you choose a source and maybe you put my name in here, remember that you are posted by me, and then you're looking for my name, again, the fact that you're looking for my name does not mean that it's tagged with my name. Now it just means that that name is somewhere searchable in that field by the author, the comments, the commentary, whatever. So of course it's going to find that name, but now you're seeing actual other posts out there.
Right. So
And
somewhere there could be you've commented on a picture, and now that picture is coming up in the search, and that's
actually,
what we're looking at.
let me point out that this one specifically, I did post, but in a public group. So you posting in a public group, this kind of stuff may show up. Let me grab another source. So maybe you do some research on me, and right now, let's go again to the see all just for a moment, just to make sure that, to show you what you can see. When I click see all for this public photos, now it goes back to Kirby Plessas with no filters, and you have photos from my art page. Oh, well, it did bring this one up, you know, other photos that it posted by me in other groups. Okay, so again, this is my car, a dog that I once rescued, right? So you're finding stuff from me in a group, but now if I switch my source again, if you had done some research on me, maybe you just even typed in my last name, right? And in this case, the last name isn't too helpful, except that you do find my company and my art. But if you researched me a bit, you would find my dad. And if you chose my dad, this is where you start getting into my family and into family pictures. These are pictures he posted that he mentioned me or tagged me in. Right.
And this is really important as we start to look for both obvious and non-obvious relationships as well.
Exactly. Anybody who you think is a friend of that person, especially if they're posting stuff out there publicly, even groups. So say again, I think that you could put groups in here. We'll see. Cave Creek. Let me see is there a group section for this one? Again, the filters themselves are really important. All right, so I live in a little town called Cave Creek, Arizona, and there's a group out there, infamous bulletin board, infamous Instagram. So it doesn't look like the groups are gonna get posted here, but you can search within the group because that is posted probably in a group.
And one of the things, to be fair to you in this, and this is one of the big challenges, is this changes on an almost daily basis. So it is really, really tough to keep up with Facebook's algorithms regarding search and what the search capabilities actually are.
Right, and there's a rumor that there's a big change coming up again with this new beta. So the thing is to kind of be flexible. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is research your person before you start looking for the images. Because if you do some research, maybe you've already figured out all of their, friends, etc., and you're going to go and do your first search, but then you're going to start grabbing for those other friends, right? So we're going to do Mark Zuckerberg again. I'm going to choose a source, and I'm going to put in here Sean Parker. Now we're probably going to get the official one. Nope, and we don't. The official, the blue check mark, Sean Parker, is the guy who ran Napster, probably the first investor really that put a lot of stuff into Facebook, right? So he's not right here, but I figure that he probably has some pictures of Mark Zuckerberg, but I don't get to choose him. So now this is when you have to leave the actual Facebook and actually use some of these advanced tools or use the Base64 translation.
Mm-hmm.
I try to organize that.
Tell me a little bit about the Base64 translation, a term you've mentioned a couple of times now. What does that all mean in layman's terms?
So the original setup for the Facebook graph, you'd have across the top, it would say, you'd have the different categories, and they're pretty easily human readable and you could tweak them. When they decided to cut that off, that stuff is still there. There's still a formula for that, but they don't want people to be able to just look at the URL and be able to see it quite so easily. So they actually had to create, they did it first in JSON and then translated into Base64 as a coding language, and they kind of put it, or rather for the URL only, to translate that search. And when you do a search on Facebook, so even if we do, say we do this search again for Randy, since Sean's not showing up, we'll start with Randy, but we will get Sean's. When I do this, if you look up at the URL, after the filters and filters equal, there's a lot of gibberish, and that's actually the Base64 translation. Mm-hmm. So we need to figure out how to generate this bit of code to focus our filter how we want it to focus.
Right. Okay,
so in order to do that, I brought you to my site because I do have a little bit of something for you. So under our resources, I have what I call the Facebook matrix. It actually used to be, once upon a time, the graph search. Since things are changing constantly, I gave a little thing that this is a living document, check back, but down toward the bottom are the different JSON formulas. So for example, right now I'm trying to see when Sean Parker posted a picture of Mark Zuckerberg. So I'm saying posts, videos, or photos from a user or a page. So this is going to be the formula. I will copy that, and then I'll use a Base64 encoder. And I'll paste my formula into that. And now I need to get the ID number from the page of the person or the user page that I want to see the photos posted by. So I've got to go back to Facebook, and I've got to go find Sean Parker. And we're looking for the official person, Sean Parker. So I'm going to switch over to people, and I'm looking for the blue check. And you can see right there, there's our blue check. And we've got to get his ID number. Now this is something that might change drastically in the new beta, but right now you can right click and view the page source and do an entity_ID search and find the ID number. So as soon as the page source loads, you could also do that in your inspect field if you'd rather do it that way. So I'm gonna Control F and then entity_ID, and there's his ID number right here. So we're going to grab that. We're going to go to the Base64 Translation tool again, paste it in there, scroll down to the bottom, encode that, and then copy this bit here. Then we have to go back to Facebook. We type in our search term again. So we're putting in here again, Mark Zuckerberg. And we're switching to photos. Make sure that that is chosen. If you don't choose the correct section at the top, you're going to mess up your search. And you have to have some sort of filter. So we're going to click U for right now, just to have it say filters and filters at the top. And let's see, I got to move this Zoom thing out of my way again. There we go. After the filters and filters equal, get rid of what's there, paste in your code, and hit enter. And that should be photos of Mark Zuckerberg as posted by Sean Parker, and the official Sean Parker, the one that I wanted, with the check. Now there's one more thing I like to do for Facebook as well, as far as image search. So we're just going to click into this one, right? So here again, Sean Parker, and I don't know what this photo is, but what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to right click this picture and do my search Google for image. And reverse searching, I'm sure everybody knows reverse searching. I've also got quite a few other reverse search tools available. That's a whole different class. But up here at the top, if I only want to see where that showed up on Facebook, and I think I'm not going to get much results for this one specifically, but I could also Google dork it and say site:/facebook.com and limit myself to just Facebook results, which is something when you're doing a reverse search for an image, the Facebook stuff is not necessarily what's going to come up first. And if you are looking for just that image across Facebook to see where it's spread, make sure you reverse search it and then do your Google dork.
Right. And it's tough with reverse image searching, isn't it? Because one of the things that Google, and it would lead you to believe that it's looking at line and form, when in fact, as we saw there, it's trying to extract keywords out of the image, in that case, fisheye lens, and now it's doing a search with basically the same shading, but with the words fisheye lens, and we were getting really not a lot of luck there. So that's one of the big challenges in using Google reverse image search.
Yes and no. So the way that I see it is when you do that reverse image search, so we'll do it one more time here. Maybe. I should have just clicked it regular. Let me click into that. All right, so when I do my reverse image search on here for Google, that fisheye lens and the that part is related more to the visually similar images, where it is trying to find like the feel of it, the fisheye lens and the colors and that sort of thing. But down below, it is trying to find that specific image somewhere else as well. If I'm looking for that exact image anywhere else on the web, or if I'm looking for those three guys, I probably wouldn't use Google anyway. I would use something like Revi and send it to Yandex instead, because Yandex is better at actually figuring out, the contents of the photo.
And TinEye is worth mentioning as well. That's quite a
TinEye is a
powerful
good
tool.
classic one as well. Yeah, but I think that I use all three actually. If I'm reverse searching an image like very specifically, and that's really what I want, I will use Yandex, TinEye, and Google usually. I know some people
Right.
also use Bing, and there's another search add-on that I just learned about called um, oh gosh, I forget it. I'll get it to you though. But that actually will let you send it to other reverse image search engines as well, like the ones that are for just Reddit, that sort of thing. But if I'm looking for them on Google, on Facebook, if I'm trying to find this one back on Facebook as it's been shared through time or whatever, then I probably would use Google just because the advanced focus on Facebook would be easier.
Right. So reverse image searching using the Base64 tools, which you have available at your website under the resources at plessas.net. These are all really powerful tools in helping us find what it is that we're looking for online. And again, making those important connections between individuals as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, we have just a couple of minutes left. So if anyone does have any questions that is joining us here today, if you have a question for Kirby, please just enter it into the Zoom webinar chat to both the panelists, and we'll certainly field those out. So tell us, so plessas.net/Facebook matrix. Now, Kirby, important to mention that you have a number of very short online courses as well that you've got coming up. Where can people find out about those?
Absolutely, yes. We do have, we moved a lot of our stuff online. So if you go to plessas.net and you can either choose online training in the menu or right here, the online training portal, this should take you to academy.plessas.net. And we've got a bunch of webinars, including tonight's webinar we're doing on Reddit. And we actually have built in, a lot of our full-size seminars are private for different customers, but we did build in an a la carte full-size seminar, and my site is not loading, which is not happy. But we
Just
do
when you're
have,
trying to show it off, that always
yeah,
has to
I know,
happen, doesn't it?
exactly. Hello, let's load this part. But we do have some new full-size ones, a la carte style, that we just released. So here we go, finally. All right. And we do have our curated news feed as well, where we have experts with 20 years in intelligence background and OSINT background, identifying news items and kind of describing them and our opinion on them.
Right, perfect. We do have a question that's come in from
Sure.
Joe asking about third-party applications to get the same right-click options for reverse image searches and also EXIF searches. And EXIF is an important part of image searching, electronic exchange image file format, but it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get EXIF data from a Facebook image. When you're actually seeing it through the Facebook viewer, you would really be going into it, getting a production order or subpoena to Facebook to be able to get
Right.
that data. But maybe you could just talk a little bit about third-party apps with regards to right-click options, so that when you are looking at an image, like the ones you just showed, and you are important to point out you're using Google Chrome as well, there may be different options available for Firefox.
Well, my opinion as far as Chrome and Firefox for images, I think Firefox is a much stronger browser, and that's one that I feel would be more secure. But there are more tools on Chrome. There just are. So if we're talking about images, again, on Facebook, it's hard to get an image, the metadata off of an image, if you only have it on Facebook. And there are millions of photos that are only on Facebook. You would have to send a court order to Facebook directly. However, if I go in, if you have a photo that is maybe in on Facebook that's in a different, somewhere else online, you might find that metadata. And that's a good way for me to show you actually how I tend to use these right-click menu add-ons to do this. And I'm not sure what's trying to load right here, but we'll try to ignore it. All right. So on this, for example, this picture right here, if I right-click, one of my go-to add-ons is, of course, Revi. And Revi is going to let me search across all these different search engines. Again, there's a new one, and I think it's called Search by Image. Actually, let me go look for that right now, because it's quite nice in that you have so many other search tools that you can add to it. So let me show you this one really quickly. And I have to tell you, my colleagues at OSINT Curious pointed this one out to me, and I think it was either Nix Intel or Sector. But you add this one, and you can choose the other tools in there as well. So I've just started playing with this one, obviously not on this training computer yet, so we'll add it here. And because I just want to show you the settings behind this one, because I'm actually really impressed by that. All right, so it's up here, it's this little red guy right here. If I choose the little dots and I go to options, look at all these other tools that I can now throw into that. So of course I would throw in Karma Decay, so that's a Reddit search engine. You know, if you're looking for stock photos, I mean, especially if you want to prove that some article isn't news, that it's actually a stock photo, that sort of thing, or a business, if you have a fraudulent business that's showing some of their pages, throw all these stock things in there to see where they got their, you know, testimonial photos from, things like that. There's a Pinterest search engine. So other than that, I haven't really used that one yet, so I'll demo without it. But again, I would use something like, you know, Google, Yandex, or TinEye to go see if I can't find an older version of this. So I'm going to use Google just right now and show you a couple other add-ons that I really like. So if I'm looking for metadata, the most important thing is right where it says all sizes. All right. Down here at the bottom, you might find the metadata on some of these pictures right away, but if you choose the all sizes on Google, the largest one will be first, and that largest one is the most likely to have metadata. Now, in this case, there's only 2 here, and so they might not have metadata. Let me go back to the search. You might find that same exact photo, and there's similar images, so don't ignore it. Go in, click on it again, and do the reverse search again. So I'm going to do another reverse search on Google. I'm going to click my all sizes again. And this is what I want to see, a whole bunch of all the same cat, right? We click on the biggest one. It doesn't have to be the biggest one. I mean, it could be others. But one of the other add-ons I have here is a tool that will let us know if there is metadata inside the photo or not. And sometimes it takes a little time to load, because I think this one really is going to have metadata in it, but we'll come back to it. You can see sometimes the tool loading at the bottom, and I have 2 tools on there, one of which is gone. So the one that's saying X if not found at the top, that's no longer available. I'm keeping it forever because it's my favorite. But the other one that I use a lot is one called EXIF Quick View. And so EXIF Quick View, another Chrome only add-on, will give you a preview at the bottom of any photo if there's metadata in it. And here's an example of the preview. And then the last add-on, which I think that this one does have it. So I'm just gonna use it anyway. My last add-on is Send to Metadata Viewer. And this one will let us know really, does this picture have it or not? And always when you're doing the larger one, and you can see this one actually did not have the metadata, so my add-on was correct. But you just go through all the larger ones and wait to see if you can find the one that has metadata. And you can see
There's
on the
not
bottom,
always that easy way around it. It does take, I mean, some serious virtual gum chewing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But I mean, it usually, it's worthwhile doing it. So this cat, definitely, I know that there are metadata filled images of this cat online. So it is a good example of one to use. And if you subscribe to my OSINT handout, which we do every month, it's not an extensive list of every tool. It's our favorite tools at the moment, but we have some example photos on there that all have metadata or are puzzles to help you find the metadata, and you can practice all of these tools on that.
Perfect. We have another question from Samantha saying, is there any way to search for images believed to be taken from social media to find a user, or rather a way to search through Facebook without going via Google? So is it possible to find a user based on an image taken from social media?
And not use Google. You probably could use Yandex. I mean, Yandex does have some of the advanced capabilities. I don't know their specific search would be for that, because I don't know if they use Site or not, but you might be able to use Yandex. But I don't know if you're going to be able to like just search Facebook, reverse search for images to find who that is.
Yeah, possibly an answer to that too is, again, exactly what you've been demonstrating here, and that is it possible to find that image somewhere else, and if not using Google, using TinEye or Yandex, as you pointed out. If we can find that, there may be EXIF data there. And one of the tricks that I've found to be quite useful sometimes is, if there is EXIF data there, And let's say the photograph was taken with a DSLR, even a
Hmm.
point and shoot camera, you
I
might
know where you're
even
going.
be lucky enough to find a serial number of the
Hmm.
camera on that. And then using something like Stolen Camera Finder, there we are.
Yeah.
What a fantastic way to find other photographs taken with that camera. And maybe it might be a long shot, but you might be able to draw some pretty good inferences about who possibly took that photograph as well.
You know, when I get a serial number, this works for me. It's just
Hmm.
that the cell phones don't give you serial numbers. But when I do
Correct.
get a serial number, this is usually pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it? And sort of an undocumented feature when you
Mhm.
consider what this website was set up for in the first place.
And it also lets you monitor. So if, say you have a serial number and you don't see anything, you can actually set up a monitor. All the monitors are public. So
Hmm.
that's one, problem with that is that anybody else who looks for that may find that there's a monitor on that serial number, but how many people know this website? So
Exactly. Exactly.
they're public, but
Well,
they're also
Kirby,
anonymous. They just happen to be there.
exactly. Now, Kirby, we're running out of time. In fact, we're running a little bit over, but that's perfectly okay. Tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about OSINT Curious, your nonprofit that you've got as well. And we can't really
Okay.
see it very well, but you are wearing an OSINT Curious sweatshirt right now.
I
There
am.
is merch available.
There is. Let me show you the website really quick.
Okay.
So, oh, I got to put the T in there. There we go. Ocean Curious. So this is a nonprofit. It's just dedicated to just getting information out and telling people, like what we were seeing before launching this is that there are some people who are putting some misinformation out in the, OSINT, like this is a tool that does this kind of field and maybe inflating some of their own content. So we thought, let's just throw, something together. Basically, we do some blog articles, we do some 10-minute tip videos on YouTube, but the part that I'm most excited about, the thing that I do most is our webcast and podcast. So every other Sunday, we get together, we have a open webcast. Anybody could join up until the thing gets filled, which usually it doesn't. There's usually about 20 people and us chatting about whatever's going on. And we invite somebody to talk about the news, and then we push that out to YouTube and to podcasts where we get a much larger audience later. So
Okay.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And we
exactly.
do
And a
have a
great,
little merch tool over at Redbubble.
exactly. It's great that you can also pick up the merch as well, and a really good way to sort of network amongst other OSINT professionals as well, and stay informed. I mean, this is such a quickly changing game out there.
And I did see in the audience today, we actually have another OSINT Curious member, at least one other. So I don't know if
Perfect.
she wants to announce herself or not, but I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. All right. Well, Kirby, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, and it is quite busy right now as you're putting so much of this stuff together, and helping us out here with regards to Facebook image searching. So thank you again for taking that time out to be here today.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and that is it for this drop in and learn session. You can sign up for other sessions. They are running currently every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern or Pacific time, rather, 1300 hours Eastern time on Thursdays, and they are here on Zoom webinars. And you can find out more about future sessions at dropinandlearn.org. Our guest next week is going to be Carl Swanee. He is the founder and CEO of EchoSec, a very well-known geolocation tool for looking for public postings that have been geolocated on various social media platforms. And we're going to be specifically talking about the dark web and one of the new tools that EchoSec have just released called Beacon, which is a tremendous tool for being able to mine the dark web in terms of finding threats and other such things as well. So we do hope you'll join us for that. Please go to dropinandlearn.org and sign up. And again, one more time, thank you very much, Kirby, for being here today, and hope we see you again soon.
All right, thank you.